What's up, guys? How are y'all tonight? So, like Colton just said, this is the last installment of our series, Better Than Gold on Wisdom, and I'm excited. But tonight, we're going to be looking at pride. We're going to be looking at how pride leads us to destruction. But before I read the teaching text, I want to read a story. It's sort of a poem, and no one knows who wrote it. But it so eloquently expresses what happens when pride enters into your life. So I don't know if it's up there, but just listen as I read. It says, "In a certain pond lived two wild ducks and a frog. They were the best of friends, and all day long they played together. But when the hot summer came, the pond began to dry up, and soon there was so little water they realized they would have to move. Now the ducks could easily just fly to another pond, but what about their friend, the frog? Finally, it was decided that the ducks would put two ends of a stick in their bills, and the frog could hang on to the middle of the stick with his mouth, and the ducks would fly him to another pond. And as they were flying low, a farmer in his field looked up, and he saw this strange formation. He says, 'Well, isn't that a clever idea? I wonder who thought of that?' And the frog opened his big mouth, and he said, 'I did. It was me.' So obviously he fell to his death. But I thought it was pretty funny because we are talking about how pride leads to destruction. And for this frog, it ultimately led him to actual death, and he probably looked like a booger on the ground somewhere. But so today the teaching text is in Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 18, and it says this. Read with me. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. This is the word of the Lord. So, when I was in high school, I didn't really make terrible decisions. I never decided to go like rob banks and stuff. But around junior year, sophomore year of high school, me and my friend, it was New Year's Eve night. We had just gone to Dairy Queen and gotten some cheeseburgers and ice cream, because that's what you do on New Year's Eve apparently. But we had gone back to his dad's house, and his parents were divorced. So it was just his dad and his stepmom that lived there. And they were gone. They were away. They were at another New Year's Eve party, I think, with their friends. But we decided that we wanted to get inside of his dad's fridge and start drinking alcohol at a very young age. And long story short, we had drank too much. We decided that it would be great if we just started videoing what we were doing, because we were like, we are the man right now. Like, we are literally actually being adults, and no one can stop us, right? And so we ended up getting to the point where I was standing in front of a dartboard, and my friend was throwing darts at trying to miss and get around the board while he was videoing this. We were sending it to people because we thought we were great, and we thought we were doing stuff that was like the most comical thing that we'd seen our whole lives. But fast forward, so his parents ended up getting home. Before they got home, we cleaned everything up. We went inside, and I'm pretty sure we ended up playing Call of Duty Zombies on the couch before they got there. So they had no idea what we had been doing before that. So fast forward 3 months. So 3 months away from New Year's, so whatever month that is, March. Me and him were hanging out. We were going to go fishing. And his mom had asked him, so we're at his mom's house now. And his mom had asked him to take out the trash before we leave. And he decided that he was just going to take it out when we got back, right? So we go fishing or whatever, and then he drops me off at my house, and he goes back home. But his mom did not like the idea that he wasn't taking out the trash when she asked. And so she ended up taking his phone away from him. And, yeah, right. And so I have no clue what series of events led to this, but she ended up going through his phone. And guess what she found on the phone? Every freaking video that we made that night, right? And she ended up calling my parents and telling them before I had the opportunity to. So one day I came home from baseball practice, and my mom and my dad were just sitting in the kitchen, and they're like, we need to have a discussion, right? And so it ended up being really bad. I'm pretty sure we both lost our vehicles, and so my girlfriend had to drive me around for that time period, and which was very not fun. But at the time, it felt like my life was falling apart. It felt like I was being destroyed because of some stupid decision that I made. And all this could have been fixed if, number one, we never would have drank the alcohol. Number two, if he would have just deleted those videos. But number three, if he would have just taken out the trash. If he would have just laid his pride down and taken out this trash, we would have been fine. But when I think of pride leading to destruction, like it says in this verse, when a haughty spirit leads to a fall. I think of that stupid decision that we made in high school. But anyway, so on the other side of the spectrum, I usually associate pride with good things that I've done inside of my life. Pride doesn't just mean something stupid, but so like maybe, for instance, like my art teacher inside of class is telling me that some art drawing that I'd done looked great, or when our coach told our team that he was proud of how hard we played during that game, or when you tell the boys after you catch a dub in Fortnite or Warzone that you're proud of them for clutching it up for you, right? But I think we've all experienced pride somewhere inside of our life like this. It could be that you're proud of a talent or a skill that you were born with. It could be an accomplishment that you've made at school or in sports or in music or in acting. It could be pride in your creativity or originality in the clothes you wear or the music you listen to. It could be pride in your work ethic at school. It could be pride in your work ethic at work because you do a job excellently and you do it to the best of your ability. But the pride that Solomon is talking about here is different. Solomon is talking about self-righteous pride, the kind of pride that you think that you're better than other people, the kind of pride that makes you look down on other people, an arrogant pride, a puffed-up chest, the kind of pride that makes you not take out the trash when your parents ask, the kind of pride that supercharges your ego so that you believe there's nothing outside of your abilities like dodging darts in front of a dartboard. But don't be mistaken. This isn't just people who walk around beating their chest and speaking of all these great things that they've done. This is also the person who's really quiet, who's quiet and reserved, and they seem super nice, but on the inside they're rotten with pride. They look around at everyone and they thank God that he didn't make them like that. They thank God that they look better and more attractive than that other person. Or they thank God that their family has more money so they can drive nicer cars or live in a bigger house, right? Or they think they're better than them because they don't listen to bad music, that they don't sleep around with other people, they don't go to parties, they don't say cuss words, right? And they think that they're superior because of their decisions that they made. They think that they are perfect. They think they're free from sin. And so they end up thinking that they're better than people because of this. And they think they're better because they can show a little bit more self-control. This kind of pride is putting you in your own life in place of God, or thinking yourself as better than everyone else. This is the kind of pride that Solomon is talking about. This is also the kind of pride that led Satan to want to be like God, and that ultimately had him cast out of heaven. This is the pride that led Adam and Eve to eat of the forbidden fruit, the pride that caused sin to enter into creation. And this is what Solomon is talking about when he says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. So why does Solomon say this? Why does Solomon say that pride will destroy us? Why doesn't he just say that pride will make you a jerk, and pride will make no one like you because you won't shut your mouth? Why does he say pride leads to destruction, and an arrogant spirit will cause us to fall? Well, St. Augustine, a super old dude who's dead now, and he was in the 6th century, but he was a really famous theologian and philosopher that honestly shaped a lot of what modern-day Christians believe. But Augustine regarded pride as the archetypal sin, or the sin which all sins are produced from, the root of all sin. And this is what he says. He says, pride is a great evil, and even the foremost evil, the beginning, root and cause of all sin. It was pride that overthrew the angel and made the devil. And even when Satan was overthrown, he passed on the cup of pride to humanity. He aroused pride inside of a human being who is created in the image of God, and that pride made humanity shameful. The devil entered humanity and persuaded Eve to defy God's law and to use her own power. If you eat, he said, you will be like gods. Consider then whether it was not pride that persuaded her. The two that had been created human wanted to be gods, and they assumed, or they tried to be what they were not, and they lost what they were. They tried to be what they were not, and they lost what they were. What Augustine is saying here is he says that pride is what makes Satan want to be like God, and that's what led him to fall from heaven. And I've heard it said this way, but pride is at its very core, pride is satanic. It makes us like Satan. It separates us from God. And separation from God is what hell is, and it's what hell will be like. And so living in pride here on earth is literally like living in hell on earth, right? And because we are choosing to say, God, get out of my life, we are choosing to say, God, I can do this by myself. But in God, in Him, is life. And so when we separate ourselves from God, we are choosing death. And this is why Solomon says this proverb, because he knows, just like Augustine, that pride gives birth to all sin, that pride separates us from God. And when we're separated from God, all there is death and destruction. When we are living inside of sin, the only thing that brings is death and destruction. And so for you and I, me, we've all experienced this in some way, that pride tells us that we know more than God, that we can do better than God. So we do things that God has told us not to, and it ends up blowing up in our face. But we end up keep doing it. Pride makes us believe that you can create your own happiness. Pride makes us believe that we can create our own joy and our own peace. Pride makes us try to be like God. And so because we think we can be like God, we think we can live inside of our own strength. Pride makes us not ask for help when we need it. And even when we see that our decision is a bad one that we're about to make, we pursue it forward. Like we don't stop even though we know it, because we can't admit that we're wrong. We're so prideful that we can't even admit to ourselves that we're wrong. Pride makes us not read the Bible. Pride makes us not pray. And because we're not reading the Bible and we're not spending time inside of Scripture and prayer, we end up feeling weak and we end up feeling separated from God, and then we blame Him for that. We ask Him why we're not experiencing Him in our lives, yet we're not pursuing Him on our own. But it's our pride that kept us from Him. We're trying to live our own way. We're trying to live in our own strength, and instead of humbly living the way that Jesus and God told us to. But here's how Jesus saves us from this. The gospel of Jesus goes directly against pride. Jesus tells us that we cannot create our own happiness. Jesus tells us that you cannot create your own peace, that you can't do it yourself. And this is why Jesus had to go to the cross. This is why He died on the cross. Jesus says that He has to do that for us, that He has to take on all of sin and pay that penalty for us, and that we need someone to save us. And the good news is that Jesus has done that. He saved us. But the way that we receive salvation is admitting that we cannot do it on our own. By admitting that we need help, and we turn to God instead of trying to be our own God. This is why Jesus says that we should become like children. Children are not prideful, yet they are dependent. They need help all the time. They need someone to take care of them and do things for them. And that's how Jesus wants us to live, constantly depending on Him for life, peace, and happiness. So what do we need to do to cut and uproot pride from our lives? What do we need to do in order to turn our hearts away from pride and towards Jesus? I think we need to humble ourselves. And first, in order for us to humble ourselves, we need to be saturating ourselves inside of Scripture and inside of prayer. And the reason we do this, the reason we open up the Bible, is because the central character of the Bible is not us. The central figure is God. The central figure is Jesus. And when we spend time in the Word, and when we spend time in prayer, we spend less time thinking about ourselves. We spend less time thinking about our own wants, less time thinking about our own fleshly desires. And it stops us from looking inward in ourselves and outward into the world for the things we don't have, and it brings our eyes and our hearts up to God. It makes us realize who He is. It makes us realize who we are. And it allows us to see how gracious and loving He is towards us. And secondly, we need to humble ourselves by daily confession and repentance. Because when we confess, it allows us to recognize our need for a Savior. Confession and repentance brings healing. Confession and repentance brings freedom from shame and guilt. And it leads us to dependence in Jesus. And I was thinking of a way to close this and kind of close out our whole wisdom series as a whole. And the normal verse is James 4 inside of the ESV. It says that when we humble ourselves before the Lord, He will exalt us. And if the goal of wisdom is to fear God, and fearing God allows us to humble ourselves before Him, this verse is from the Message, and so it kind of expands upon this. And so read with me as I read it. So let God work His will in you. Yell a loud no to the devil, and watch him make himself scarce. Say a quiet yes to God, and He will be there in no time. Quit dabbling in sin. Purify your inner life. Quit playing the field. Hit bottom and cry your eyes out. The fun and games are over. Get serious, really serious. Get down on your knees before the Master, and it's the only way that you will get up on your feet. If we are not getting on our knees in front of the Heavenly Father and the author of creation, we will not be able to remove this pride from our own hearts. We cannot do it by ourselves. So, pray with me, and we will move into a time of worship. Dear Heavenly Father, I'm so thankful for this series that we've gone through. I'm thankful for the opportunity to teach to these students and to be able to spend time with Colton working on this. And Father, I'm so thankful for the things you've done inside of my life through these students inside of this room. Father, I'm thankful for all the things that we've seen you do over the last year in the midst of COVID. But God, right now, we need to have some students that are in dire need of being on their knees in front of you and crying out and admitting that they can't do life on their own. They cannot do it on their own strength anymore, and they need you to move in and to intercede in their life with them. So, Father, I know that you are there, but, Father, I pray over this time of worship as a time of reflection over all these messages that Emma and I have taught. And so, Father, thank you for the gift of your Son, and thank you for the sacrifice that he made on the cross so that we could spend an eternity with you and spend a relationship with you while we're here on earth. So, Father, I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Things changed just a little bit. We were gonna sing a song and then some things changed. So I was racking my brain of different things that I can do in songs that I know off the top of my head, and it's like one. So I don't think we're gonna do that just yet. But I did want to do something, and maybe this is just the Lord doing this work, but it's our seniors' last day here, so I actually was going to attack this song at the end anyways. I'd love to pray over our seniors just to send them out and on, and then beg God to make sure that they actually come back and serve in some way and like come see us and don't forget all about us, specifically me, but anyways, other people too. So if you're a senior, if you don't mind, just to come stand right here, we'd love to just pray over you and for you and all the rest of it. And leaders and students and friends of these people, please, by all means, come up and let's pray over our seniors. Give it up for our seniors, too. They graduated, yo. Seriously, I know you guys are looking the other way, but as I talk to the back of your heads, we love you guys so much, for real. It's been a gift to serve with y'all alongside of you, to watch you grow in your faith and all the rest of it. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Please come back whenever you're in town and just chill with us on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning, or August 4th. By all means, come back on team night. Let's just throw this thing down. But love you guys. Let me pray. Lord Jesus, grateful you've given us students who are seniors, and you've carried them their whole lives. You've been faithful, man, a part of that faithfulness has been just spilled into our ministry and over us, and I'm so thankful for each of their stories and the way that you have redeemed them and broken into their lives and worked through hard things and sinful things and confessions and repentance and brokenness in their families, and you've worked through all of those things to get them right here, right now. And you say that you align all of that you set those things up so that we would be positioned, all of us in creation, be positioned at the proper time that we might find you and know you as best as we possibly can. That's why these students are here. And I know they've done that in my life. It allowed me to be ministered to by your Spirit, working through them into my soul and into my life. It's made me a better follower of Jesus, and I'm thankful for their story and their testimony. God, we send them out. They're never under our control. As much as I wanted them to listen to me, they were never under our control. But God, we send them out and just commit them as Paul and Barnabas were commissioned and sent out, as you commissioned your disciples and all the rest of it. God, I pray for them as we send them out, Father, that they would find out more about you and grow closer to you. And the next 4 years of their lives than they ever had here in this particular ministry. In the next 7 years, just that they would actually really come to know more deeply who you are, because you are going to guide them, and you are going to carry them, and you're going to do those things, and they're going to seek you outside of this group. So God, I pray that the word of their testimony, which is that's how you say we overcome, by the word of their testimony, I pray that people will be overcome by your Spirit, that the works of the enemy will be crushed, and that ground will be taken at different universities and at different campuses and in coffee shops and in restaurants and all the rest of it, and all these different towns where they're going, that ground will be taken away from Satan and towards your kingdom, because they stepped in and they carried your Spirit there, and it's more powerful than anything that exists in the whole world. And so, God, I pray that you would do that through them, that you would constantly remind them through your word and through prayer. You hide it in those places. You hide this reminder in your word and in prayer, that you are with them and for them and have power for them and have work for them and a purpose and joy and beauty ahead. So, God, I pray that they would be students of Jesus, that they would be students of your word, students in prayer. They would never feel like they're far from you, because you're constantly chasing them down with your goodness and your mercy. Goodness and mercy following them all the days of their lives. So, God, I pray that would be true of our seniors. We love them, God. Thank you so much for the blessing they've been to our ministry. God, but they continue to bless our ministry just with their stories, but also with their service. Please send them back, Lord. Haunt their dreams, God, and bring them back here so that they would serve and just be a part, so that we continue to be blessed by the work that you are doing in their lives and that you've done. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Love you guys. Do me a favor. If you can, pick your chairs up, fold them, and take them all to that wall. Don't take them to that wall. Take them all to that wall. Thank you for taking your chairs. Thank you for doing your chairs. Thank you. Oh dear. Don't step in that. 'Cause there